All right, good morning, everyone. This is Chad Driscoll. I'm with the Iowa Mentoring Partnership and Volunteer Iowa. I am going to be leading us through the webinar today. The topic is trends in mentoring, and a lot of this is going to be highlighted from those of us that were at the National Mentoring Summit a few weeks ago. So as we go through the slides, you'll see that, yes, the National Mentoring Summit had its 10th anniversary of it last at the end of January. It was the conclusion of National Mentoring Month, so hopefully everyone had a great time for National Mentoring Month as well and had some good successes there. We had three of us, staff from IMP there, myself, Mary Shika, and Nicole Quaid, and we had 6 programs represented and able to attend this year as well. And they're going to be the ones who are going to highlight the learnings they have, some of the trends they heard from workshops or different sessions, and we will go from there. So if there's any comments throughout, feel free to either put it in the chat box or you can raise your virtual hand and we'll call on you. And there'll be time at the end also for kind of other wrap up and general Q&A. So, all right, so with that, first up is Bailey, and I will turn it over to you, Bailey, to go ahead and just let me know. I'll go ahead and click through the slides so that just let me know when you're ready for that. Bailey, it looks like you have to unmute your line.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. So my name is Bailey Cosmore. I am the Not Alone Youth Mentoring Program Coordinator at Mills County Public Health. And then Chad, if you just want to go to the next slide. So at the National Mentoring Summit, one of my favorite presentations was law enforcement as partners in youth mentoring and after school programs. And that was presented by Donald Ash, and he's actually a sheriff in Kansas City, Kansas. And the other presenter was Catherine Van Ness, and she is the Associate Director of Fight Crime Investing Kids. This presentation just gave a lot of different statistics and strategies to use when partnering with local law enforcement. I really enjoyed it because I've tried to recruit mentors from our local police department with no success. From this presentation, I've learned that police officers might be more motivated by numbers and statistics. And when I present to them again, my approach will be more than recruiting mentors, but to be creating partnerships. One of the first things they talked about is the prime time for juvenile crime. For most of the country, Iowa included, the prime time is from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So what this tells us is that mentoring programs or after school programs are very beneficial both short and long term. We all know mentoring in general is an amazing preventative measure, but now we also say if you mentor after school during that time, you could be preventing or lowering the numbers of juvenile crime. So if you want to go to the next slide. Sheriff Ash said the quote, "You can pay me now or you can pay me later." Basically, he was just stating that we can advocate for mentoring funding because it's cheaper to pay for preventative services than it is to house individuals in jail. He then said after school programs save $3 for every $1 invested. So when you think about that, that's potentially a huge amount of money to be saving if more was invested into preventative work. Another thing he brought up was that most incarcerated individuals do not have a high school diploma or GED. And we all know that quality mentoring programs and relationships increase graduation rates. Again, this is another statistic that could help sway police departments to want to partner with your program. There were other officers in that presentation, and we had the opportunity to hear from them. The one thing they all said that really stood out to me is that they hate locking kids up. The last thing they want to do is arrest kids. We need to let our officers know that we have programs that can help prevent youth in our communities from being incarcerated. At the bottom of this slide, I've included the link to where I got my graphics. And on that web page, you can click on our states. You can click on each state in the country, but you can click on Iowa, and it'll give more information on some partnerships that have been formed throughout Iowa. And that's the Fight Crime, Invest in Kids website. And then I also sent a PDF to Nicole that contains the full report that Fight Crime, Invest in Kids did. And that report talks about how they got their numbers for the prime time for juvenile crime. And then it talks about different programs across the country and what work they've done with the youth and to partner with local law enforcement. So that was all I've got, but that I just really enjoyed that presentation, and I just thought it was a lot of good statistics to be able to partner with our local law enforcement. So.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Hello?
Apparently they can hear me.
Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we're all muted.
Oh, right, okay. So, first off, I'm Colleen McCann, one of the mentoring coordinators at Helping Services for Youth and Families. In the room with me, I have Kathy Schwartzoff, the other mentoring coordinator at Helping Services for Youth and Families, and Laura Lehman, our Luther College, which is the local college in town, interning as a social work major for her spring semester. Yay! Oh no. So the one session that I went to that stuck out the most to me was building trust within a mentee group. The presenters were from America Scores. It was Bethany Henderson and Charity Blackwell. If you could advance the slide, please. Chad?
Yes, do you see the key takeaway?
No.
We're seeing the overview of the
Whole
slideshow.
Sorry,
slideshow.
I'm working on it. I thought it was still showing, so I apologize. Yeah, you can go ahead and keep talking about it if you have some notes on your end. So I'm not sure why it went away, but go ahead.
Key takeaways from the building trust within a mentee group. Norms matter in any setting, and I'll go into that a little more on each of these. Strive for a space that is safe and always brave. It's all about trust, and get out of your comfort zone. It can be empowering. So norms are just setting those for programs, especially in the group setting, but also in the one-on-one mentoring. And group norms can be things like youth mentoring events are safe, friendly, and enjoyable. or active participation, step up, step back, which just kind of means for those people that are more outgoing and are the ones always answering, kind of step back and let the ones that aren't as outgoing maybe step up. And then respectful, open-minded, and have fun. One-on-one norms should be set with the mentoring, mentee, parents, guardians, kind of what they expect from the relationship. In a group setting, you would obviously want to do that with, like after school, you would want to do that with the whole group that's there and coming on a consistent basis. Next slide, please. The big chunk of this really talked about safe and brave spaces. So the basic dictionary definition of a safe space is a place or environment in which a person or category of people can feel confident that they will not be exposed to discrimination, criticism, harassment, or any other emotional or physical harm. This is Amplifier.org defines a brave space is a space where participants feel comfortable learning, sharing, and growing. It's inclusive to all races, sexes, genders, abilities, immigration status, and lived experiences. Another safe space definition in Merriam-Webster is a place intended to be free of bias, conflict, criticism, or potentially threatening actions, ideas, or conversations. I think all of us kind of know the safe space. Make sure your mentoring groups are in safe areas. When your mentors are going out one-on-one, talk to them about safe places in the community and that kind of thing. But maybe the brave space is more of a new concept. So the brave spaces emphasize the need for courage rather than the illusion of safety, and that comes from the art of effective facilitation. Creating a brave space really goes back to setting norms. An example, our group mentoring norms in the mentoring program at Helping Services, our events are safe, friendly, and enjoyable. We make sure the places we are having events are safe in the general sense of the word. We bring a poster with our norms on it to remind the group. So we hang that up and it says, events are safe, friendly, enjoyable. If youth have a hard time or behavior, we then say, is what you're doing safe, friendly, and enjoyable to yourself and others? Depending on their answer, you can follow up. Let's work together to keep our actions safe, friendly, and enjoyable. It just gives them, they already know what to expect when they're coming to those events, coming into that space. They're not surprised or thrown off. Yeah, so that's kind of the safe, brave spaces. And in the PowerPoint, which I attached to this, it goes into that a little bit more in depth from the actual training at the summit. Next slide, please. Trust. Really creating those norms together, bring things to the level of the ages you work with, involve mentees, mentors, parents, guardians in the process of deciding on those group events. Make them feel really like they're part of it. It's something they want to see. Next slide, please. All right, so this is what really set this session apart. To get out of your comfort zone, because it can make you do things you didn't even think you could ever do. The example on the left, where I'm from, was a poem that they gave out to us, and then we filled in, like, I'm from a small town, from corn and farming, I'm from the rivers, I am from the trails, I am from strength and loving no matter what. I am from parents and sisters and home. That's what I wrote. Everyone did their own kind of, and that's how we were supposed to get up in front of the whole entire room and introduce ourselves. In the poem format, you could perform it, you could just stand up there and read it, you could get really into it if you wanted to. lots of people, you know, got up there, read through it quick. Some got totally into the performing. The one on the right-hand side, they then took us and put us in tables of 8 and had the group working together with support and other personalities and whatnot, come up with a group. We were supposed to be youth, kind of showing ourselves like as if we were the mentees. Then get up again and perform our group one together as a group. Well, our group got really, really into it. We ended up, and you didn't have to use their poem format. You could take it wherever you wanted to go. We got really into it, and we ended up, if any of you know the song We Are the World,
I thought that's what.
we played that in the background without the words and actually sang these up in front of people. I hate singing and would never sing in front of a group, but with the encouragement of the group, which was the idea of we had set the norms, we had done this together. So it was, I'm not going to sing it for you guys now. I am going to read through it. We are the mentees, we are the children, we're the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. Oh, there's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true, we'll make a better day, just mentor and mentee. So it was really, like I said, empowering because, yeah, it just really got you out of that comfort zone and showed you having the support of other mentees and mentors around you, and they're doing the same thing for the same cause, just really was impactful for me. Next slide, please. So yeah, resources, reach out to these two if you have more interest. They'd love it. They'll tell you anything. They're very energetic, very awesome. Bethany Henderson, there's her email. So is Charities, and then the America Scores website. Next slide is just the full PowerPoint. And I did send that to Nicole. So if people want it, she can give you the full PowerPoint. Or I can too. My information was on the first slide. So yeah, thanks.
Great, thank you very much. And yeah, the information from today's webinar will be emailed out as a reference for those who'd like it. So up next, we have Jessica. Go ahead. Jessica, you'll have to unmute your line.
Oh, there. Now can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Prazak. I am the coordinator of the one-on-one mentoring project here in Cerro Gordo County. We're located in Mason City. So I chose, I guess it was called Supporting the Mentoring Relationship, How Quality Match Support Strengthens Bonds. And I picked that one. I just really resonated with the presenter. Her name was Ramika Blakely, and she's currently a consultant for both Mentor Virginia, the National Mentoring Resource Center, and then also OJJDP. So she has the knowledge, all the elements of effective practice. But what I was really interested in is she's actually a mentor. So she's like been on the front line, and she wasn't just a director that was telling, had all the research and the knowledge. She's actually, meets with families. And then she shared that I think there were like 3 or 4 different matches that she talked about. So over, I don't know if it was the past like 15 years, she's mentored, and she still has contact with the different young girls, and now they're adults and they're like nurses and moms. And so it just kind of, you could see how mentoring came full circle. I did send Nicole the full PowerPoint, her presentation, because it was about 66 slides. So I just thought I'd touch on the ones that were, I felt were pretty important. The first one just talks about the 2 ways to implement the learning outcomes. So she just really talked about make sure you modify your existing match support methods and incorporate like elements of effective practice. And then as you're developing the new match support models, highlight the key moments in time where the action is needed. She also talked about having your sustainability plan and updating those as you find different like the elements or like the do you need something? Okay. Sorry, interruption. So just making sure everything's like up to date and you're writing things down that work for you. These were her 6 guiding principles in mentoring. She always said your students should come first, and their families. Each one teach one is what she kept talking about. Mentoring is a gift that keeps on giving. Be the gift. Mentoring is a journey in unknowns, but it's okay to take the ride. And then as she spoke to the coordinator, she just said, your hard work will pay off. And then when she's meeting, with other people that want to be mentors, recruitment, she's, go harder, go home. And she just said how she's just like blunt that it's not easy. It's not a walk in the park all the time, but if you stick with it, it's a great journey. And then also writing our mission down and make it plain and understandable, and then that 60-second elevator speech. The next slide, she just kind of talked to all of us about, being a mentor or a mentoring coordinator. Like, these are all the different hats you'll have to wear. And it's kind of funny because in our training, we actually have a slide kind of like this that just talks about, a helper, negotiator, you'll be a friend, problem solver. So that was kind of neat that we kind of are using the same thing. The next slide just talks about how your match support should start from beginning to end. So when you're starting to recruit your mentors all the way till when you're closing the match. And then she just went over, the different, the different areas of each elements of effective practice. But she said each one of these elements, your support should be happening this whole time. The next one was her 6 tips on match support. Just always providing high quality match support, but that requires knowledge of all the participants. So not only, and it's different, I guess, if you're doing more school-based, you might not have as much interaction with the parent or guardian, so that might, you might have to get that information from the teacher about what might be going on in the home, but always knowing about the mentor in the background and also the mentee. Always investing in your pairs, and they'll invest, with you and with the program. If anyone's having problems with the match, just gather your facts, talk to all the parties, and then you always make the decision later. Tapping into the feelings of mentors, mentees, parents, guardians. She kind of talked about if a mentor's like, well, I don't really know how they feel about the match or how things are going. And she said, she just always well, ask them. Just, ask how they're feeling, ask what they think. And then she said if they don't feel comfortable, she jumps in and helps with that. Keep asking questions and get answers until you're all on the same page. And then just sharing information with everyone involved in the match, whether it's like a school-based match, you're letting the teacher or maybe the school social worker know kind of what's going on if there's ever any problems. The next slide just talked about, these were her main points on match support. Obviously, like that first month, at least 2 phone calls or meetings with all participants. So the mentees, the mentor, and then checking with the parents too. And like I mentioned before, the support should happen from the start of the match until the closure of the match. And then other ways she talked about providing support. She had a collection, she had pictures in her PowerPoint of all these different recognition awards. Like she had like her first letter she got from Big Brothers Big Sisters, any volunteer recognition awards, and then just the match anniversary, like a 1-year certificate, 2-year certificate. And she just said as a mentor, those were very important, even though they were, just maybe a quick handwritten letter saying thank you. She said that really meant the world to her. And, you don't have to do these big elaborate things. And then she also talked about providing events to connect. So maybe have some just for mentors, like a mentor coffee or a lunch. And then obviously having different events for pairs so the kids can get to know each other and see like I'm not the only one in the program, etc. The final slide just kind of talked about when she did her wrap up, that when mentors receive high quality support, from the program, they report stronger relationship with their mentee, and they're more likely to continue. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you very much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, next up is Lynn. So go ahead.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. I went to this workshop and basically did not have slides posted at all on the app afterwards because it was a study that they were reporting on that they had done. So it talked about matching strangers and how personal characteristics of mentors can predict match length. And some of what I've learned was kind of surprising. So next, please. In every mentoring relationship, we have the mentor, the child, the parent or guardian, and the match support staff. And every one of those people are key in helping to have a positive impact on this mentoring relationship, but also the length of the match and the quality of the match. So everyone is very important on how it is that they work together and participate in what happens in order to make this a quality match support. Basically, what we're doing is we're looking at matching strangers, and that sometimes there's some personal characteristics and life history that comes to this match that can impact how this match is going to go. So this workshop was given by Tom Keller, who is from Portland State University, and Renee Spencer from Boston University. The two of them basically started out with 1,000 brand new matches that they were going to survey. And what they needed was all three participants, the mentor, the mentee, and the parent or guardian of the match, to all say yes, which came down to a total of 354 participants or matches that they were following. What they've learned is that one-third of those matches closed within the first 12 months, and 2/3 closed by 40 months, which is a little over 3 years. And 1/3 of those matches went beyond 40 months. Now, if you look at your own match length, their average match length was 21.8 months. So not quite 2 years as their mean. And what we're looking at, like for our agency here, it makes a difference whether we're talking school-based or community-based. Our school-based matches in our agency are at 18.7 months, and our community-based matches are at 51.3 months, which is, it shows the community-based matches that really are the longer matches than what a school-based match would be. And part of that could be that we are matching oftentimes high school students in our school-based or college students in our school-based matches that may have their own little timeline for when they're going to be able to participate and still be in that community. Okay, next slide there, Chad. One of the things they talked about was the fact that they had the top reasons for matches, the longer lasting matches, and they really decided that number one is that the longer matches were focused on fun. The second reason would be on goals, the third one on their bond, and the fourth impacting thing here was on common interests. Personally, as a match support person, I believe when we make matches in our agency, we really try to encourage or include common interests. But I think that we're looking at the fact that they're wanting to spend time together and have fun is really a key important part there. This part I found kind of very interesting, but the basics is that the mentors that indicate uncertainty at the time that they're applying about their concerned about the time commitment here. They are more likely to close before 12 months. So they already are entering that application process and interview process with some sort of question in the back of their mind as would they have time for this. Also, mentors who said they want the relationship to last forever are more likely to close. But on the other side of it is parents who said they wanted the relationship to last forever were least likely to close. So what I'm seeing from this is that maybe there is a difference in the fact that the commitment level of the parent is really key to a longer lasting match because of the fact that they are a vital part in supporting that, especially community-based match. Mentees who are highly involved in decision-making lasted longer than those with little involvement. And so in my mind, that means it's a joint decision as to how they're going to spend their time together, rather than the mentor going in and saying, this is what we're going to do today, or this is where we're going to go. When the child is feeling like they're heard, that they're a part of this decision-making process, that those matches tend to last longer because there's a different kind of connection, a different kind of being heard that needs to happen for those mentors or the mentees. Okay. Matches, personality traits. Matches more likely to stay matched are those when the parent signs them up versus when the school refers them. So if you have a difference between your school-based and community-based, most of our school-based referrals come for our school-based program, but our community-based program, they tend to come because a parent really is signing them up. But personality traits really do have a high influence on the length of those matches. So these are some of the things they talked about, that high extroverts are more likely to close than low extroverts. Those low on neuroticism were 1.3 times less likely to close. Okay, so neuroticism would be feeling anxious, fearful, moody, angry, depressed, lonely, those kinds of things. In my mind, it may be considering the fact that someone who is possibly volunteering because they are fulfilling a need of their own, because maybe they feel lonely, maybe they are often depressed, that those are the ones who come with a different focus for why it is they're involved in the match relationship. So if those who have high amount of neuroticism tend to close soon versus those who have a low amount of neuroticism. So if you happen to have a pretty well-rounded kind of personality on interacting with people and how you feel about yourself, I think those tend to be what I would call the low neuroticism that tend to stay matched longer. Too high extroverts who are matched are more likely to close. In my mind, the basics is possibly that maybe they're not listening to each other, that they're just talking and not necessarily taking each other on a personal level, getting to know them beyond what it is that they would like to say. The mentor and mentee with high agreeableness have a shorter match length. This is kind of a curious one for me because I think there's a lot of times, it took me back to that memory of being a child and saying with the neighbor kids, what do you want to do today? And everybody says, I don't know, and I don't care. And yet that's kind of what this feels like to me, is like everybody wants to either doesn't want to offend somebody, or they don't want to speak up for themselves on what they really do like or don't like. So a mentor may say, let's do this, and the mentee says automatically, okay, but they really don't want to. That can kind of be really discouraging for whether they want to do that same thing they don't want to do again the next time they get together. Conscientiousness. For the mentor is low, the mentee high, they are less likely to close. For the mentor, if the mentor is high and the mentee is high, they are more likely to close. So conscientiousness has to do with being very thorough, meticulous, diligent about things, very careful. And so take that into consideration. If the mentor is a little more relaxed, that mentee could have a little more, somebody a little calmer that they're around, somebody a little more willing to help them identify some of those personal things that they might be struggling with themselves. And those with, the last part was, those with problems of attachment issues are more likely to close. We're about building relationships. We're looking at the fact that our relationships between our bigs and our bigs and our littles, or our mentors and mentees, is very important, very important. And if they have struggles with bonding, then they are going to probably struggle with the whole thing of connecting and feeling close to their mentor. But we also know that we have parents that we have to continue to foster those relationships with as well, not just between the agency, but between the big and the parent. And if they're not feeling as though they have bonded, that they feel attached, then they're going to be less committed to stick it out or to stay involved in the relationship in the long term. So that's just kind of a general overview. I found some of this to be really kind of like, oh, that's not the way I would have thought about it. But the expectations for everybody that's involved, the important part is that they should all be very much in common, rather than, I don't know, we had one mom one time that said she really just wanted somebody to take her child to Little League practice and bring him home again. And that was nothing that we expected and nothing that the big was expecting. So of course that match didn't happen. But the idea that everyone has common expectations when they're coming into the match also not only means that we need to help bring that together, but what do we do to help prepare them and to answer those questions and to change the focus of why they're involved to how that this can be a positive relationship that is equal. As extrovert, I would tend to say, okay, as an extrovert, I need to be better at listening so that I'm hearing that child and I'm hearing that parent. And it's not all about me and what my needs are as the big or the mentor. And so those would be things that I would maybe want to do when I'm training my mentor and preparing them for this relationship. And then, of course, the other part, you're looking at helping a child to have expectations that are something they know they really understand what they're going to be expecting out of this relationship, and the parent as well. Often we have difficulties with making connections with some of our parents because they're not necessarily brought into the relationship or reminded enough how vital their part is in helping this to be a successful match. So expectations should be something that everybody has in common. And that's the basics of an hour and a half of a survey results that they had put out for us. That's all.
Great. Thank you very much for sharing the insight of that research. Very interesting. So, all right. Our last presenter for today's webinar is Jamie. Jamie, you'll have to unmute your phone, it looks like.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. So I went to a workshop on the power of peers, which is a school-based peer mentoring program for middle and high school. And I got a lot out of it that I'm kind of relooking at how we do our own school-based program. You can go to the next slide. So we talked about the disengagement crisis, how peer group connection works. And peer group connection is the name of their program, but I thought there was a lot to take away from their model and how they run. So I do refer to peer group connection a lot in this, but think of it more as a model versus just another program, I guess. And then why peer mentoring works, and then the research and impact behind why peer mentoring is such an awesome opportunity for kids. So we can go to the next slide. So the disengagement crisis, a study was done, and it kind of found that the longer students stay in school, the less engaged they became. You can go to the next slide. I'm sorry, I switched slides a lot. So you can kind of see that from 5th grade through 11th grade, the percentage of disengaged students grows pretty dramatically. And then you can go to the next slide again. So they said that 47% of those students who dropped out of high school reported being bored and disengaged, and that was kind of the reason for dropping out. But 69% say that they just weren't motivated or inspired to work hard while in school. And you can go to the next one. So the root cause of disengagement they found was a lack of caring relationships in schools. Most students who dropped out, only 41% had someone to talk to in school about personal problems, which is pretty big when you think about how much time kids spend in school. The fact that only 41% thought that they had someone that they could talk to about, something other than what was going on in class is kind of alarming to me anyways, just because, a lot of kids, that's why mentoring is so important, obviously, is because it's someone to talk to, but just having that person in school. So 62% said that their school needed to do more to help students with problems outside of class, because as we know that problems that take place in the classroom aren't necessarily the only problems that children are dealing with growing up. So anyway, you can go on to the next slide. So peer group connection, peer group connection is a model that uses older students that are more experienced and kind of already comfortable at the school to help incoming students or newer students kind of transition. So for example, 11th and 12th graders would support 9th graders, 8th graders would support 6th or 5th graders, depending on what grade your middle school starts at. And then we were under the impression that there had to be a 6-year age difference. And I actually recently, after this, looked into it and saw that in the Elements of Effective Practice, it's only 2 years. So I'm kind of excited to see if we can't implement using more. I have a ton of high school mentors in my after-school program, so I'm kind of excited to use them more for our older middle school kiddos. But anyway, when you think about it, it's kind of common sense, but obviously, like if you are new and you're a freshman in high school or, 5th or 6th grader in middle school, and you have that older person to look up to who is a good role model, who's doing well in school, has good social skills, that's going to help improve your school culture and climate quite a bit, because it's going to make those younger kids more comfortable being there, which is going to just overall help their school performance or academic performance. We can go to the next slide. So there is actually a video. If you want to click on that video, it highlights the peer mentoring model that they do, and it's done at a school in Baltimore.
With the City Full Student Media, and we're here in the PGC class at Compton Academy High School discussing safety first. Let's check it out.
Excited about college and I'm wanting to go to my school that I want to attend.
PGC stands for Peer Group Connection, a program designed to engage students in activities to address issues that are known to help reduce risk behavior and produce positive outcomes. From conflict resolution to decision-making skills to feeling included, PGC can have a huge impact.
Getting to learn how to matriculate through high school, how to talk to certain teachers and peers within their grade level, and they get to kind of open up and express how they feel without it getting out in the hallway amongst other students.
It allows the peer leaders first to build a relationship of connectedness, then it allows them to create their own separate pockets of families in schools.
In addressing the topic of safety, the juniors and seniors in PGC go through the lesson first and make sure the activity is ready for the freshmen. So right now we're basically placing these scenarios on either completely unsafe, neutral, and completely safe.
They should learn that safety is critical. It's critical to their education. It's critical for life. Like, you need to be safe. If you don't feel safe, you don't feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, how can you function?
Just to be safe anywhere you go, to be safe, and within yourself, and around others too.
Especially coming from middle school, coming into the 9th grade, to start growing, to be able to talk, to be able to look at real life situations and have some say.
This gives us a platform to be able to share the experiences with freshmen and be able to have a forum to have open dialogue.
If it do start an altercation, then you know that's not your real friend. So either way, it's a positive outcome.
It doesn't matter how, like, again, you said doing it for a long time, so you're safe doing it, you know how to handle it, but it's just not safe, period.
So just because an adult does it doesn't make it any safer than what a young
Right,
person.
so
As you can see, the conversation is getting really good. We're just trying to make sure that we have everything ready for the freshmen on Thursday. So today is the big day where PGC is teaching the lesson on safety first to the freshmen. Let's see how it goes. Can somebody share what do you think it means to be safe?
to be protected.
I mean, not as safe as I used to feel a long time ago in other communities that I used to live in.
The outreach lessons taught in PGC prepare students for issues they may face outside of school. From completely unsafe to completely safe, the different scenario card puts real life situations at the forefront, and some can spark real debates.
Mom was having a Facebook page, and I said that was neutral because, like, I think it's like all about how you like act on Facebook.
You send pictures or something, you can get exposed, and it shares and travels, and you can be embarrassed to come to school because everybody is going to be the talk.
If you do accept like random friend requests or whatever, make sure it's on a social media that don't really have personal information and stuff on it.
But social media, a line that needs to be set in place, because you can't trust everybody that comes and follows you and stuff like that. You can't trust everybody, and they don't realize that right now because they just want the followers.
To get it out and not keep it in bottled up to where it explodes at a different point in the classroom or out in the hallway or out in the streets. So I think by them being able to speak to one another, it kind of lets it out and they can express how they feel.
Wearing gang colors wouldn't be a good thing because, like, it would cause them not to go to school because, like, what if they got shot by somebody that thought they was actually part of the gang?
If you're gang affiliated in the school, you can wear the colors since that's your school and that's your game. So it doesn't really matter.
I can't wear a red bandana just because it's a gang member.
Because remember, we're talking about safety in school and out of school.
Me hearing things about the communities in Baltimore, it really opens myself up to different places and how it should be and customs here.
We have a lot of safety issues in Baltimore City, and I feel like the issues that we talked about helped me throughout the city, like walking at night.
Evaluation results of freshman participants in PGC show increased graduation rates, fewer discipline issues, and stronger goal-setting skills, to name just a few benefits.
High school was a little bit harder than I expected, and PGC, it lets me talk about the way I feel about high school and the way high school is and my opinion on high school. So it relieves a lot of things that are on my mind. I hope that more things like PGC open up as I go into a higher grade so we can dive into a better future.
When I first got here, I was scared because I didn't come to summer school, and it was like everybody knew everybody, and I was just the outcast. But when we got PGC, I started to know people more. Like everybody in my group I didn't know at first. I feel like I know them now more than I did before.
To talk to not, just an adult, but a student that can also relate to you and some of your problems that you might be having.
So I think it's very effective having seniors talk to the freshmen. So it kind of gives them an opportunity to change and be something different that they thought they could not be starting out.
For the juniors and seniors, PGC is a big part of their lives, and they care deeply about helping each other.
I think I've gained a sense of maturity because it's some things that I wouldn't want my freshmen to see or hear that I'm doing. So it's just helping me to mature, within myself.
I've gained communication skills. I've gained confidence in being able to talk to people and look people in their eyes. I've gained facilitation skills.
This has been an amazing experience for the past 2 days, discussing with the freshmen about safety first and what safety means both in school and out of school. I believe PGC is a perfect program to have in our high schools. To me, this has been a great experience this past year, being a peer leader myself. I hope that all schools have programs like PGC, and this program that continues from years and years and years to come. This is Naeem from Baltimore City Student Media Team. I'm gone.
So obviously that's in Baltimore. So some of the topics they talk about are more geared towards bigger areas than what some of us are used to. But I really just like the model. I like how they kind of show how they meet and the things they talk about. The peer group connection does have a curriculum. They talked about that in the workshop, but I think that it'd be pretty easy to kind of come up with your own things. I know that it definitely made me think a little bit differently about the things that I do with my after school program, even though that would be a little different layout. But it just made me think more about talking about things like safety. I know that I've talked about bullying before and had Casa come and speak about good touch, bad touch, and that sort of thing. But it just kind of, like I said, made me rethink some of the other, that there's quite a few more topics that can be touched on. So next we're going to talk about why peer mentoring. Why is peer mentoring good to have in schools? A lot of us that have a school-based mentoring program know how much it can benefit our mentees and mentors. Mentees, they are more connected to the school and their peers. They have that connection, not just, oh, we go to school together, but, you're a mentor. And they might make friends with other people through their mentor they might not have otherwise been friends with. And mentors can just kind of help keep them on a better path than had they just shown up at school and not known anybody and that sort of thing. So it helps with competency and self-efficacy, grades and academic achievement, and positive behavior and attitudes. They see a better behaved, or they have I cannot speak today, a role model, a mentor who, they kind of can model how you properly act at school and social situations and things like that. So they have that person to kind of model after. Mentors experience connectedness to school, self-esteem, empathy, communication and conflict resolution. And then it also helps their relationship with their parents, which I thought was interesting. And I'm wondering if it's not because, they are working with somebody who's younger and, going through things, and they're kind of getting to hear the other side of it. They might not think about it, and then, with their parents at home, might rethink that, oh, maybe I shouldn't be so quick to snap at, because they just care about how I'm doing. So we can go to the next slide. So it also had a huge impact on attendance. An independent research company did a study, and of 32 high schools that had the peer group connection, 9th grade students attended school more often than non-participants. And then they did a study about that sustainability, and it was actually said that a full year after the students had completed the program, they were still attending school more often than non-participants. So I thought that was interesting, that those habits stick with them. It's not just while they're in the program. So there's also an impact on academic achievement. The same research company also looked at graduation. Ninth graders who participated in the program were more on track to graduate than non-participants. And that also, again, rolled over to the next few years of their high school. So they stayed on that path even after being in the program. You can go to the next slide. So ninth grade students and peer leaders who participated not only were more on track to graduate and had better attendance ratings, but they also had a 1.3 increase in GPA versus the non-participants. So, I mean, it kind of benefits all the way around when it comes to academic performance, which I thought was really interesting and really awesome. And then it kind of breaks down graduation, the impact on graduation. So 77% of students So 77% of ninth grade students ended up graduating versus 68% that weren't in the group. And then of those, also 81% of male students were graduating versus 63% that were not in the group. So I thought that was interesting, especially, the male, how it affected the males in the groups. So, of course, cross-age peer mentoring can, it's awesome, and it can really give kids a great person to look up to and model after, and it's got a lot of obvious benefits that we just talked about, but it also is not something that should go without supervision by any means. I definitely would not foresee this kind of thing being outside of school, simply because, you can go to the next slide. The mentors that are in this situation, they definitely need support from adults to, figure out how to guide another peer, to talk to a younger peer. And then also, you don't want them to be inclined to exhibit their bad behaviors. With this program, she said that how they go about getting their mentors, they have the school refer seniors and juniors who are, responsible and, on track to graduate, like all those good things that we want our kids to do in high school. So it's not just anybody that gets to sign up and say, hey, I want to be a mentor. So that kind of, that makes me feel a little bit better about, hopefully they won't be role modeling any negative behaviors. But again, it's just good to have, somebody there. Maybe if they're meeting during the school day, not all the time, but to be in a school setting and check in with them relatively often. And then obviously require continuous training and guidance and that sort of thing. So you would be offering training a little more often. I know with my after school program, we do a training at the beginning of every school year, and then that's about it. But maybe once a quarter or something, do a refresher training. Also, how it was set up in the school, they did it as an elective class. So the mentors are referred, and then if they would like to choose that as an elective course, it runs the whole school year, and they would meet during the school day, which I thought was really great too, because then if you have a match that they're at the same school, they have that person there all year round at that school that they can talk to. Whereas with my after school program, I have high schools that meet with middle school and elementary, but they meet twice a month after school for an hour and a half. Whereas with this, they'd be there pretty much any time. If you're having a rough day, find your mentor and, let's talk about it. I need help figuring this situation out, that kind of thing. So I thought that was just really great. It would be a great opportunity for kids to have just that person there. Let's see what else. These are just all my resources that the information came from in the original PowerPoint. So yeah, this is just that was my thing, and I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did too.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jamie, for sharing that highlight from that session. So we are at the top of the hour, but just a couple items from our end as we wrap up today. Again, thank you to the 5 of you for presenting. We had one that wasn't able to be on today's call that did attend the summit as well. And I know they're working, Mary and Nicole are working with her to find another time for her to share some of her highlights and learnings as well with everyone. The next peer share call will be March 12th at 2 o'clock. More information will be sent out about that from Mary, so be on the lookout for that, but please continue to keep this time blocked on your calendar every month. The other thing we wanted to share and highlight and remind from the IMP side is that we are hosting an Elements of Effective Practice for Mentoring training, an EEP training on March 5th here in Des Moines. It'll be a full day. I know almost all the presentations reference some portion of EEP, and even if you have done it, it'd be great to come for a refresher, especially if you're new or haven't ever attended one of these. It'd be excellent to attend that. So we have plenty of room, plenty of capacity. So the information for that is on the IO Mentoring website, as well as in the last newsletter that was sent out. Because we do want to have you register just so we know who's coming and can plan accordingly. With that, thank you for your time today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.